Welcome, and thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program, we're going to take a review of 2013. Oh, what a year it was. It's amazing any of us got out of this with our shirts still on and maybe even a smile intact. But looking back, we're going to take an overview with Mystic Healer Sonia Grace, who's been on our program many times before, and find out what are the lessons that we can learn from this as we move forward into 2014. I'd like to welcome Sonia Grace to the Beyond 50 radio program. Sonia, how are you?
Hi, Dan. I'm great. Thanks for having me back to your show.
You betcha. Now, I know the thing you're most excited to talk about here is Miley Cyrus, since everybody else is. We might as well just get this out of the way now. What's going on with this girl?
Well, from my perspective and the perspective that I want to share with your listeners today is one of being a spiritual teacher and being able to just, look at something from that spiritual place as opposed to the place that we all tend to go to, which is more of the mental body and what the news is telling us and, how we're deciphering everything through the duality of being good and bad and right and wrong. And I see Miley being extremely emotionally wounded, in her childhood, obviously, and being in that role of Hannah Montana and having to put forth an image to other children and other people in the world of, goodness and all that Hannah Montana was. I feel that she didn't really get a childhood. She was on stage performing all the time and never allowed to have what we all need to have, which is being a child when we are a child. And this statement, this, her twerking and all the things that she's doing that's so outrageous, really just from a business perspective, I believe is a move that her, her manager and everyone is directing her in. But I also feel it's her statement or her basic cry for help that she is really in a lot of pain. I really feel that. When I watch her, and I watched her on New Year's Eve perform, I see a young woman who's in a lot of pain. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way, too, as she was standing there with Ryan Seacrest, and she says, well, this was your idea, and you could tell that it was like something that she was actually forced to do.
Right.
That was the feeling, anyway.
Right. And she's trying to find herself, and she's trying to identify who she is, sexually as a young woman. And I think that she's had to live up to this image of Hannah Montana for so long that it's to me it's the rebellion of the 3-year-old.
I gotcha. Now, some really big news, since that was sort of a minor item, but a big thing in many ways. But let's take a look at, we've got 2 royal babies, so to speak. One that really is, well, and the one that wants to be. We're talking to get Kim and Kanye West, and then the royal baby.
Right. There's some really interesting things happening, and I just want to say this for the listeners so they understand kind of the perspective. We moved into the 5th dimension, which is kind of the energy that we exist in now, throughout the galaxy, throughout the universe. It is the big pot of soup that we're swimming in our reality of every day. We moved out of the 4th dimension, which was, the last, 20,000 years. So now we've moved into this 5th dimension, and it is really a huge shift for everyone. And so certain souls are coming back in, certain beings are being born, like these babies, because there's a reason for it. I see Kate actually as the reincarnation of Jane Seymour. And I see Jane having come back into, the position of royalty because there were things that were not completed for her. She died in childbirth. And her child, this is going to be a real jaw-dropper for everyone, is, the reincarnation of Anne Boleyn. And even though Anne was female in that time period, her and Kate had a whole lot of karmic stuff that went that went down between them in the course of Anne losing her head and Jane coming in as the next wife of Henry. And I see Anne coming back in as the son, which is Prince George, because there needs to be some healing. And this is why I brought up the fifth dimension, is that's what's going on all over the world, is all these old karmic unresolved things are being revisited so that people can heal. And people in power, like Kate and William will be in that position of power at some point in their lives. These are as important as, people all over who are just experiencing big chunks of their past karmic stuff needing to be resolved.
Uh-huh. Wow. I didn't realize there was so much to it when it comes to the royal babies.
Well, yeah, I mean, but there's so much to it with the royal babies because we focus on that and that's what's in the news. But if you and I sat down and talked about our families or, the people that we know and their families, there's just as much importance going on there as there is in the royal household. We just make the royal household more important because that's who we get to talk about.
Ah, gotcha.
Right.
Now, here we are. We're in the second term of President Obama, but he seems to be just riddled with scandal, whereas he just seemed perfect coming into his first term. What's happening here?
My interpretation, again, spiritually, is that I feel he is targeted as the point of the duality splitting apart.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually moving into as we go into the fifth dimension, a non-dualistic reality, and so everyone holds on to these ideas of what's good and what's bad, and he ends up being, just as we talked about the royal family, the focal point. He is the point that we get to project all of our stuff onto and transfer all of our stuff, and he's good, he's bad, he's this, he's that, and the media drives the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
The news has so much power, and they're driving the wagon. I personally feel that he has played out both sides of the duality for the I'm going to get sort of out there now, for the karmic expression of what that role is. As president, he has a role to play, and that role as president comes with big karmic implications as well. So you understand what I'm saying? There is karma in his role of being president, and then his own personal karma gets laid over that. And he's, so now he's dealing with these 2 points of karmic stuff that needs to be resolved. He's not just resolving it for his own stuff. He's resolving it for the years of presidency that have gone on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. That makes a lot of sense, though. I mean, it seems somebody's always got to take the hot seat, especially when you consider he came in after the Bush administration and everything that was going on there, and the idea that here was a governing body, and it's been this way for quite a long time anyway, but it's the most recent that's in everybody else's minds, is that here was a government that was big and would do whatever it wanted, and there's nothing you could do about it. And at least that's what it gave the citizens the feeling of, is we'll just do what we want, and what are you going to do about it?
Right.
And then just sashay right off of the whole thing, hand it over to, let's say, Obama, or whoever would have won the presidency, in this case Obama, and now you can blame it all on him.
Right. And karmically, he's carrying the big ticket for all of the stuff that's gone on with, prejudice in this country, with people who have karmically fought for, African Americans having a vote and having freedom and everything. He represents all of that. Mm-hmm. So as, the big karmic daddy of the of the country, he's carrying a big load, and again, I say this to the listeners, spiritually speaking. I am not taking sides, saying this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. I'm simply delivering. This is a position he stepped into, which I wouldn't wish on anyone.
Mm-hmm. Now, staying with the government just for a little bit, I guess there was a point of, I would say, a small feeling of retribution, or maybe a big one, with Edward Snowden and the NSA leaks. Tell us about that.
Well, again, this new frequency we're in is of a higher energy. It's a higher vibration. So we moved out of the fourth dimension, which is more that, peace, love, rock and roll. I mean, we all kind of went through varying stages of that since the time of Atlantis and Lemuria. 20,000 years ago, we have morphed through this fourth dimension of experiencing love and drama and, discourse and all kinds of ways of expressing and experiencing it through the duality, of course, the good and the bad and the ugly of love and that vibration. Now we've moved into a higher octave, so now we're trying to assimilate it at a higher frequency. And Snowden represents the truth of this frequency. We could kind of slide on the truth in the fourth dimension, but now there is no sliding. There is just this stark, open, high frequency that everybody's having to go, okay, this is my truth. And I'm seeing it across the board in all industries. People are coming forth with a truth, and either it's being accepted or it's not accepted, but there's no middle ground.
Oh.
And his leaking the truth, or WikiLeaks leaking the truth, is a way of bringing some form of balance into this higher frequency. Again, I'm not on the right or wrong channel.
Right.
I'm just saying that is the expression of creating balance in this higher frequency.
So you won't get away with it, NSA. We've leaked you.
Yeah. Well, see, they're the NSA is the other side of that balancing ship. They're trying to bring balance to it in the old form. They're holding on to how it was in the fourth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, across the board, Dan, we're going to see this with humanity big time over the next decade, is the people who are holding on to the old form and the old way of being in the fourth dimension. It is not going to translate in this new frequency. And I'm watching it in my work. I'm watching people get ill. I mean, suddenly, like cancer, boom, they're gone. I mean, all kinds of illnesses are happening because people are resistant and they're not moving into that higher frequency and just, saying, okay, we got a new thing going on. Let's give it a try. And the NSA is a great example of that.
Ah, gotcha. And, staying with this as well, when we take a look at, some of the disasters, and there were some big ones this year, but Fukushima is the one that really seems to be the one that was quiet, but it's really becoming a real monster in and of itself. How should we be, I guess, experiencing this? What's going on there?
Well, to me, Fukushima is the karmic, the collective karma of the Japanese people reenacting and trying to heal from Hiroshima. Yeah, there's a real karmic tie to what happened to those people in World War II and that bombing, and the collective karma wanting to heal that, everybody wanting to heal from that, but there's still being, I'm sure, bitterness and pain and all kinds of stuff in the people from experiencing that. It really wasn't that long ago. And then this culmination of energy, and it gets expressed in this disaster of Fukushima.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a way, it's, again, if you look at the whole universe and the earth and our lives, everything is about being in balance. Mm-hmm. Everything is constantly moving and shifting to create balance. And this is a part of it.
Yes, and I was going to say that's an interesting point of view for the listeners as you look at what are considered to be these big top news items. Mm-hmm. They're only big because they seem to rattle our subconscious cage in a way that maybe at the moment we're not aware of. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're also pulling out what our responsibility is to these things. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And our purpose for being here on Earth as souls in bodies is that we are the caregivers of this planet. We are the stewards of the planet. There, nothing more, nothing less. We are here to care for this planet. And we get sidetracked, we get born, we have amnesia, we don't remember our past lives. we get totally sidetracked by the ego. Oh, that feels good. Oh, that smells so good. Oh, that tastes so good. We're constantly sidetracked and forgetting that really we are here to take care of this planet. And so as a collective, we keep creating, it's like a little kid, we keep creating these bigger disasters, these bigger things for the collective to snap on and go, oh, we're actually the ones that are responsible. There is no Superman that's going to come flying down and lift the bridge up. We're going to have to fix the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But we're really caught in that whole, ideology of believing that we somehow we're going to be saved and somehow we're going to get out of this mess because we're naughty, children who forgot to turn the water off and we left it running. I mean, there's so many there's so many things that are happening here that humanity, it's time in this fifth dimension, we're being demanded to take responsibility and basically to grow up and to be responsible for the energy that we're putting out, for the energy that we're manifesting, and for the disasters, the mistakes that we've made.
Mm-hmm. Well, that explains this big uprising of superhero movies, then, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Everybody wants to be saved. The people standing on the roof, with big signs saying, come and get me, UFOs, I'm here, from that consciousness to, the Green Lantern, Superman, all of it. It is our inner child crying to be rescued, and we are, in fact, the ones to rescue the inner child. But we have to be the adults and take responsibility for that and do the work.
Mm-hmm. What to you, Sonia, looking back on 2013, was probably the biggest news story that had the biggest impact on you?
For me, it was Fukushima.
Okay.
Because I live so close to the Pacific Ocean. I'm such an advocate through my Earthwave series. I'm such an advocate of the Earth and protecting the Earth and being a caretaker of the Earth. And I felt that was a turning point for the Earth. That was a big, big turning point. And the thing that's amazing is we forget how powerful this planet is. I just heard from someone the other day that Chernobyl is actually, they discovered a fungus that's growing that is eating up the radiation.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't surprise me.
That's the power of this planet. It's so powerful. And I feel that when I say, we are the caretakers of the Earth, it's our role in that is to be responsible, is to use that inner compass that is not a part of the duality. It is the innate understanding at a soul level what it means to be here in a body, to have that respect and that reverence and that humility, and to care for this planet because she is a living, breathing being.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily mean you and I are going to go out and start digging ditches and, doing this labor that might need to be done to take care of this problem or that problem. It means as a whole collective consciousness, we're taking responsibility in our daily actions.
I find it kind of intriguing that you bring this up, because I was just talking with a lady the other day, and we got into the conversation about animals. And she says, it's just really ridiculous sometimes the way animals are treated by human beings. And she says, and eventually it got to the idea of what the Bible expressed as us being stewards of the planet. Mm-hmm. And she says, we both actually came into agreement is that somebody profoundly understood the power of the possibility of what a human could do, putting that into the Bible, saying you are responsible as a steward. That's a very powerful position, but it's not one of power. It's one where you have to master yourself, knowing the destruction that you could possibly cause.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean, that when people are born, often they experience amnesia. They don't remember their past lives. They don't necessarily get engaged in a deeper sense of self and knowingness to understand they've been here hundreds and hundreds of times, and that this is about us being able to clear our karma and to be here for the planet, to care for this planet. And and once we get that all kind of snapped in and lined up, then the the what is my purpose question just completely opens up, because one's purpose can be as simple as loving people or caring for people.
What I would like to ask you then is this. I mean, we just covered some of the top news stories that are out there in 2013, and certainly you've given us great insight as to what is going on there, that those things aren't just incidences that are separate from us. I mean, you can tell just by your reaction sometimes to what these stories, how they impact you. But moving from this point forward into 2014, what would you most encourage our listeners to consider?
I would encourage everyone to consider, as we move forward, really being conscious of your thoughts, of what you are engaging your mind activity in. If you are really aware of what energy is coming out of your body and going out into the world, or is your energy from your body grounding into the earth? How connected you are with the earth? Are you going outside and connecting with the earth? Are you, are you putting your hand on the ground, or just walking barefoot and connecting with that energy? I feel like we're moving into this higher frequency, and it's shifting everyone, and everyone is trying to find their balance and maneuver in it, but it's leading people to behavior of the fourth dimension that's just not going to work. And part of that is this idea that we can almost be invincible, and that takes me to, again, the karmic thread that I think is important for people to recognize. In Boston, in the Boston Marathon, when that happened, the bombing, if you go back into history and you look at Boston's history of violence, I mean, 1770, there was a massacre. 1773, the Boston Tea Party, and they disguised themselves as Native Americans, for heaven's sakes.
Well, no,
and
you could even be more recent than that when you look at the racial riots that happened in South Boston back in the 1970s.
Exactly, and the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1776. My point is that Boston, as a piece of land, a collective karmic pod, has karma, has collective karma. There's energy on that land that is of a violent nature. I mean, that place, somebody needs to call me and have me clear that place. It's like there's an energy there.
We need several sage bushes, but we'll get it taken care of.
Yes, and it would be cedar, but you're right, Dan. I really feel like somehow that needs to be purged, because that, to me, yes, there's the facts that we can look at as to who did what in the Boston Marathon, the bombing, but there's a deeper thread to this that is related to the energy that has condensed and morphed on that land. I was just on some land in Florida, and I was shocked. It was like being in a vacuum. It was like somebody just took all the air out. And in the middle of the night, this entire group of Native Americans came to me. It was like a tribe. They were standing in the room I was sleeping in, and they said, "You can't be here." And I said, "Why? I'm supposed to stay in this house." And they said, "Because we were burned on this land." It was, it was like it was it was horrible. I mean, they were burned. They were treated horribly. And so there was sort of this energy on the land of, nobody should be here because this was a very bad thing that happened. Land will hold the energy of things that have gone on as much as it will grow trees and ferns. The land will hold that energy until it gets cleared. And you can bet I cleared that house and the land.
So, do you see things looking good, I guess, in 2014 all the way around, or do we still have a lot of work to do?
You know, I do. I see a lot of really good things for people in 2014, and I see a lot of aha moments for humanity. I see a lot of people settling down in this new frequency and realizing that they don't have to chase their tail and somehow, become enlightened. That we are exactly where we need to be at this time. And that we can all take a deep breath and recognize that if we just, one foot in front of the other, to take it one step at a time, and be aware of your consciousness, of where your brain is, what you're doing with your thoughts, what's your energy doing in your body. I see a lot of really good changes happening. I see a lot of good things happening with the economy, and I feel that although we are definitely headed for an ice age, and we're seeing it, it's hit Scotland and England, Ireland. It's now hitting the East Coast and Canada. I mean, we're seeing more and more severe weather, and I feel over the next decade we're gonna see a significant shift in our climate. Significant.
Well, and speaking of severe weather, we seem to have over the last couple of years, and it, can stretch further than that, but it just seems more concentrated now, is, these typhoons like the one that hit the Philippines just devastated that country there. You're looking at things like this in the hurricanes that are going on, and it just seems there's more and more frequency of these things. As I was growing up, those occurred, but not to a level that seemed to be with the regularity that we're experiencing today.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I feel that it's going to continue to excel to a point that we are maybe even experiencing, as the Philippines did, some real devastation from these extreme weather changes. A lot of it, I would say all of it has to do with the sun, and that we have to really recognize how the Earth communicates with the sun, and the sun with the Earth, and all the planets in our solar system, and the galaxy. I mean, there's so many factors here of maybe just peeking beyond our own backyard that are having an effect on planet Earth.
And you look at the whole thing as you pull back and realize that, as you were discussing earlier about the power of planet Earth and how it pretty much has quite a lot more power than we do, that it kind of shakes itself up in such a way that when you have these disasters, that's when you see the real humanity come out. And the sad thing about that is why we have to wait for disasters for this to happen.
Right. And you're absolutely right. We tend to, even on a street that has multiple car accidents, they won't put a light in until there's so many fatalities. It's the same kind of thinking. We're not going to do anything about this until New York City is halfway underwater. Then I think we better take action.
Or call Superman, one of the two.
Exactly. The other thing I wanted to bring up that I think is a bit of a ray of hope, and I'm all about rays of hope, because this is what humanity needs. Humanity needs hope, so that we can pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and recognize that we are the spiritual beings that we've been seeking, and now we can get on with it and take care of this planet. But I feel that Pope Francis is one of those ray of hope, that he has a message and an understanding of humanity that goes far beyond what I've seen ever come out of that position in the Catholic Church. And I'm very impressed with him as a spiritual leader, because I feel that although maybe I don't agree with all of the policies, that he has stretched beyond anyone that has been in that position. And that his message of peace for the world is quite pertinent to this fifth dimension, and what I feel is his understanding of this higher frequency, perhaps through his own Catholic translation, but there is an understanding, and I'm really happy to see that.
And I'm going to kind of make this the last but not least because they are around the corner, but taking a look at the Academy Award nominations, it seems to be all about movies about our history, and that's a little bit unusual. Usually there might be one in there, but it seems like most of them are.
Well, sure, because we just moved out of a dimension, a complete understanding that humanity has had for over 20,000 years. We just moved out of that, and people are feeling that, whether they're conscious of it or not, and they're going to look back into the past with sort of this remorse of, remember Lassie, remember, the old Star Trek shows. I mean, people are going to look back into history with sort of a longing because we are hurling so fast into the future.
No kidding.
There's no turning back. So it doesn't surprise me at all that these movies are focused on history because we need to move on. We need to integrate and move on, and that's the process.
It's interesting, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, Sonia, or perhaps a lot of people who are in midlife maybe feel this way, but here it seemed when 2012 was coming upon us, it sort of took a while. But once it was here we are now 2 years later.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, where did that time go?
Yes, it moved extremely fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we are experiencing a shift in time and space. It is, I get reports of this from people constantly. And I think everyone I know, whether they're, clients or just friends and people, friends of family, everyone I know has been aware of looking at the clock and it says 1:11 or it says 11:11 or it says 12:12 or 2:22. I mean, just people across the board are experiencing this clock phenomenon.
If I see a 13:13, I'm going to be very upset with somebody.
Which is the whole time-space shift. It's
right.
It's just materializing in a way in this world that we live in. It's materializing for us to actually see. It's those moments when you look at the clock and it says 2:22. It's like the universe winking at you and saying, "Yep, it is shifting. So here's my message to you."
Ah, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Well, very, very enjoyable. Always to have you here on the program, to kind of really put a more holistic stint on what's been happening and what our responsibilities, because this is all our responsibility. If you know about it, you're responsible for it. That's at least the way that I feel about it.
Well, yes, and I feel, Dan, that we have now in this higher frequency the responsibility to really get grounded and really connect with the planet. A lot of people in the New Age community are wanting to sort of leave their bodies and leave the planet, and although that's a really fun thing to do, it's really not the time to do it because we have a lot to take care of for our children's 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 children, and we really need to get on the job. And it's kind of time to, like I said, grow up, pull your boots on, and get to work with what needs to be done here in this, this beautiful place that we have to live in.
So we've got the Earth. It's a European health spa, folks. It's time for you to exercise those spiritual, mental, and physical muscles and stay here and get it done. Don't leave it for the Hulk to come in and take care of. Sonia, is there a website people can find out more?
Yes, you can find me at Sonia, SONJA, Grace, GRACE.com.
And for those listeners out there who love YouTube, you can certainly find her on the YouTube channels with your Earthways series, as I understand, and there's a couple of other ones that you're working on as well, I understand.
That's right. I have an Earth Angel series out as well. So, yes, and you can find me on the Beyond 50 YouTube channel as well.
Oh, very good. Sonia, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, Dan.
2013 is behind us. Let's see what 2014 brings for us. Simply visit us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We'll have a hot link for this interview, so that way you can post it and share it with others as well. We thank you for tuning in. I'm Daniel Davis, and remember, live your day past halfway.